Mark shuffled into the gleaming headquarters just before dawn, the city still draped in silence. The glass building towered above the streets, a monument to power and wealth, but to him, it was just where he cleaned floors to survive. His mop glided over the marble as he moved through the executive level, the world of high-stakes decisions and billion-dollar deals far removed from his daily struggles. He murmured softly, one day at a time, for Lily, holding on to hope for his 7-year-old daughter who was battling a rare illness. The building was quiet. Empty leather chairs surrounded a polished boardroom table. As he wiped the surface, something caught his eye, notes left open on the CEO's tablet. His eyes paused on a bold header, merger approval, $4.2 billion. A number too big to even comprehend. Mark stared for a moment, then slowly shook his head. Deal's worth billions, and I can't even afford Lily's next treatment, he muttered, a mixture of awe and heartbreak in his voice. He didn't belong in that world, yet every corner he cleaned was a reminder of just how far he was from affording the care his daughter needed. He often told himself that hard work was enough, but lately, the hospital bills, the long nights, and the fear of losing her made that faith harder to hold on to. As he packed away his cart and prepared to leave, Mark had no idea that the very merger listed in that meeting note, one that would change the company forever, was about to change his life too. And it all started with a quiet man, a mop, and a whisper for his little girl's tomorrow. The sun dipped low over Manhattan as Mark wrapped up his shift, his body aching but his thoughts elsewhere. In a quiet hallway near the executive suite, he took a quick break and video-called Lily. Her small face lit up the screen, pale but smiling. "Daddy, will I still get better if the hospital closes?" she asked innocently, her voice soft but piercing. Mark's heart dropped. He had overheard fragments of conversation earlier, whispers that the merger would shutter several operations, including the non-profit children's hospital where Lily received her treatment. He hadn't wanted to believe it, but now, hearing her question, the truth struck like lightning. He stood frozen, torn between fear and desperation. That hospital was her lifeline. How could a deal inked in a high-rise boardroom decide whether his daughter lived or not? He ended the call, his hand trembling. Just down the corridor, a group of executives filed into the boardroom. The CEO, sharp and composed, was handed a sleek pen, about to finalize the $4.2 billion merger. Mark hesitated at the door, his breath shallow, knees weak. He wasn't supposed to be here. He had no suit, no title. Just a heart full of love and a voice full of fear. But he couldn't stay silent. He pushed the door open, the boardroom falling into stunned silence. Everyone turned to stare as Mark stepped in, breathless, eyes pleading. "Please, don't sign that deal. Not yet." It wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't planned. It was a father's last hope, standing between a signature and the life of a little girl who still believed her dad could fix everything. The air in the boardroom thickened with tension as Mark stood in the doorway, out of place among tailored suits and polished shoes. Faces turned, eyebrows raised in disbelief. A janitor interrupting a $4.2 billion decision? Security stepped forward, ready to escort him out, but the CEO raised her hand. "Let him speak," she said calmly, curiosity in her voice. Mark swallowed hard, his chest rising with every shaky breath. He wasn't sure how he was still standing. His voice trembled but didn't waver. "I know I don't belong here. I mop these floors. I clean up after long nights of meetings like this. But I saw the papers. And I heard what this merger means." He paused, searching their eyes, not for sympathy, but understanding. "That hospital you're shutting down? It's the only place helping my little girl. Lily. She's 7. She still believes in fairy tales. And that hospital, it's her only chance." A hush fell over the room. No one reached for their coffee. No one looked away. "I get it, profits, shareholders, strategy. But I'm not asking for a handout. I'm asking for a heartbeat. For you to see that this decision isn't just numbers on a page. It's lives. It's my daughter's life. Mark didn't cry. He didn't plead. He simply spoke the truth, laid bare with the kind of raw courage that comes from love. Around the table, seasoned executives, people used to charts and forecasts, sat silent. No graph, no bullet point, no slideshow had ever landed like this. His words didn't demand attention. They earned it. And in that moment, the janitor was no longer invisible. The room remained still, the weight of Mark's words hanging in the air like a storm about to break. The CEO sat motionless, her fingers gently resting on the expensive pen poised above the contract. She looked at Mark, no longer as a janitor, but as a father, as a man who had dared to speak when it mattered most. She glanced back at the paperwork, then slowly closed the folder. The pen made a soft click as she set it down. "You reminded me why I started this company in the first place," she said, her voice steady but laced with emotion. "It wasn't for power. Or headlines. It was to make the world better. Somehow, I forgot that." The executives around the table exchanged stunned looks. No one had expected this. Billions were on the line. But something deeper had shifted in that room, something that couldn't be measured on a spreadsheet. She stood up and addressed the room. "We're calling off the merger. We're not going to build our future by sacrificing what matters most. Instead, we'll form a new partnership, one that drives innovation and protects the people we serve. Including that hospital." There was a beat of silence, then a murmur of agreement. Heads nodded. The deal, once certain, was now history. Mark's lips quivered. He blinked quickly, fighting back tears. "Thank you," he whispered, voice cracking with relief and disbelief. It wasn't just about his daughter anymore. In that moment, Mark had done something extraordinary. He had changed the direction of a company, not with power, not with money, but with truth, heart, and the courage to speak it. The summer sun warmed the sidewalk as Mark held Lily's hand, guiding her toward the hospital's front doors. Her steps were small, but lighter than before, her giggle floating into the air as she clutched her stuffed bunny. For the first time in months, Mark smiled without the weight of worry pressing on his chest. The hospital was still here. Still helping. Still healing. On a nearby newsstand, a headline caught his eye. "Tech giant saves children's hospital after janitor's brave plea." His picture was there, awkwardly taken, broom in hand, eyes wide with disbelief. Inside, the hospital bustled with life. Doctors, nurses, and families moved with purpose. And standing by the reception desk, dressed in simple elegance, was the CEO. She spotted them and knelt to hug Lily warmly, her eyes soft with sincerity. "You're the reason we made the right choice," she told her gently. Lily beamed, unaware of the power her story had unleashed. Later, cameras captured the CEO's announcement of a new company initiative. Compassion in Leadership, a fund dedicated to supporting family-first policies, ethical business choices, and voices too often overlooked. Executives and janitors alike stood side by side as she spoke. Mark stayed near the back, his arm around Lily, heart full. And as the screen faded to black, a voice echoed softly. "Sometimes, the quietest voices carry the loudest truths." And one janitor's courage saved more than just a hospital, it reminded a billion-dollar boardroom of its humanity. In a world driven by profit margins and bottom lines, it's easy to overlook the quiet voices in the background, the ones sweeping floors, fighting silent battles, and holding on to hope with tired hands. But sometimes, all it takes is one courageous moment, one act of truth spoken from the heart, to disrupt the system and remind us all what truly matters. Mark, a humble janitor and devoted single father, didn't have wealth, influence, or power. But he had love. He had purpose. And when it mattered most, he used his voice, not to demand, but to defend the life of his daughter and the dignity of countless families like theirs. His courage didn't just stop a billion-dollar deal, it sparked a movement. It awakened compassion in a room of executives, shifted the direction of a company, and preserved a place of healing for generations to come. Through one act of bravery, he reminded everyone that leadership without humanity is empty, and that real change starts when we listen to those we often ignore. This story is not just about a janitor or a CEO. It's about all of us. About the power of empathy, the impact of standing up, and the truth that sometimes, the smallest voice can carry the greatest strength. And in that strength, hope lives on.